You have recovered the Orb of Possibilities from Gul Kardec. No doubt, you are being pursued by True Way forces. You must return the orb to the temple in Hathon. I have notified Vedic Kryn. She is waiting for you in the temple.
As Commander Sarish said, we're in the midst of returning a liberated orb to Bajor. However, upon entering the Bajor system, an unwelcome surprise awaits us.
I am Gul Mutak of the Kriegar, Adjutant General to Gul Kardec. You are carrying stolen property belonging to the True Way. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded.
A Cardassian True Way vessel is in orbit of Bajor. Bajor, barely a few minutes away from Deep Space Nine and a Federation fleet. Did he bring an army? He must be really desperate to get their orb back, but this just seems stupid. This Gul Mutak is arming weapons, so let's hail DS9.
Sarish here.
Commander, there's a True Way presence in orbit of Bajor.
In the orbit of Bajor? But how could they? Nerve of that. Sorry, I'm okay. I will borrow the Defiant and be there momentarily.
Alright, that certainly rattled Sarish. Guess there's some lingering resentment there against the Cardassians. Still, reinforcements are inbound, so we'll just have to fend off a few Hideki-class Cardassian warships. Shouldn't be too hard. There, one down in the opening salvo. Perhaps we should call back the commander and tell her not to bother. The Defiant warps in as the last vessel explodes and Commander Sarish Mina hails us.
You're still in one piece. Let's teach these Cardis a lesson.
Alright, I guess I'll form up on you. Whoa! She seems a bit eager. A couple more ships have revealed themselves, a Keldon-class cruiser and Mutak's ship. The Keldon was a more powerful Cardassian vessel designed to replace the Gaylor class and favoured by the Obsidian Order. It is a powerful ship, and without the USS Defiant providing backup, could easily overpower an unprepared vessel. As mentioned in the post-Dominion Cardassian video, the True Way had been staffing and obtaining ships for a long time, under the pretense of Madred's mining operations. Most of these ships and personnel were surplus from the now defunct Cardassian military.
That's the last of them for now. I will remain in orbit while you return the orb, just in case.
With that done, we're free to beam down to Bajor. Looking forward to this, it's been my first visit. The planet of Bajor is now a Federation world, having been accepted into the United Federation of Planets at the close of the Dominion War. We can ask around its citizens for more information on the current state of affairs, and amble around the city of Hathon, taking in the sights. Walking its streets, we pass a group of Klingons who seem to be having some issues with the Bajoran militia, but for the most part, the planet is at peace. The ravages of war of this time seem a distant affair. Well, Bajor is literally on the far side of Federation space when compared to the Romulan Star Empire and the Klingon Empire, so I guess it's not that surprising. I'm planning on a post-Dominion Bajor video, as I did with the Cardassians, focusing on how they folded into Starfleet, how they adapted, as well as looking aspects of the Bajoran faith in the Prophets. It's going to have to be a separate vid, as this storyline has been condensed a lot, so things progress rather quickly, with a bigger threat to talk about later on in this video, and I don't want to crowd it with too much information. Suffice to say, the majority of Bajorans are happy with Federation membership. There's even the local Hathon Starfleet office in town that we can visit. It's staffed by several officers who seem to have strong ties to Bajor, such as Lieutenant Jarrell Cav, who fought in the Dominion War and now serves as operations officer of this outpost. There are two things that still stir powerful emotions in the Bajoran people: their religion and the Cardassians. Even though the Cardassian government is now at peace with the Federation, and therefore Bajor, many are still alive who fought in the occupation, or even during the Dominion War, so tensions are still high with them, and we can often overhear Bajorans using terms such as Cardis and Spoonheads to demean the Cardassians. This very square, for example, is where the Bajoran people prepare their annual gratitude festival, and it harbours the oldest structures in Hathon, and it's the central point of many meetings and town events, but the Cardassian occupation left it with a scarred, dark past.
May the prophets bless you. This is the heart of Hathon. The buildings surrounding this plaza were the first buildings constructed in the city. Here, our ancestors raised their families and gave thanks to the prophets for their many blessings. It is here that people come to talk to their neighbors, and here that we gather each year for the Gratitude Festival. But it is also a place of dark memories. When the Cardassians had new laws we had to follow, they posted them here. When the food rationing started, we came here to collect the scraps they gave us. When they took our sons and daughters to the mining camps, the trucks stopped here to collect them. And when Gul Perek executed 15 farmers, he hung their bodies here to remind us that Bajoran lives were meaningless to him and his thugs.
These kind of acts are invasions at such a fundamental level to a culture that it will take generations to heal these rifts. It's difficult to bear in mind that not all Cardis are the same when confronted with such acts. Is it wrong to feel such prejudice against an entire species? Well, certainly so. But it is understandable. Enough sightseeing, I'm going to depress myself. Let's just return this orb to the temple and then we can be on our way.
Greetings. Do you seek the wisdom of the prophets?
And, who are you?
I am a seeker of knowledge. I spend my days in service and prayer. The prophets have many things to teach us, but their lessons are subtle and full of mystery. It takes a quiet, attentive mind to understand.
I can be attentive.
I am not as wise as Ranjan Ravel, but he is always willing to help pilgrims like me find our way. I may never fully grasp the wisdom of the prophets, but I can try. The journey to enlightenment is a blessing in of itself. If that is all I ever have, it is enough.
I hate temples. Once inside, we can speak to Vedek Kryn and inform her of our recovery of the orb.
Wonderful. The prophets have smiled upon us this day. What was lost has been returned to us. You have done a great service for the Bajoran people today, and we are most grateful.
No problem, just doing my job. Did he just get enlightened? Oh, no, I mean it was an honour and a great privilege to be the bearer and courier of this glowy box.
Please, place the orb upon the altar.
Righto then. So we enter the soft sanctum that houses the orbs, supposed conduits between the prophets, the gods of the celestial temple, and the Bajorans. I've read all of the reports, but I'm sceptical. Upon reaching the altar, we place the chamber that houses the artifact upon it, but before we can leave, a strange sensation overcomes us.
The service rendered is not the service desired. What does not belong cannot be returned.
Is that Chancellor Jumpok of the Klingon Empire?
What has been returned does not belong.
Taris?
We must travel backwards.
When we gaze in the mirror, we see our faces as others do, but reversed.
Your task abides. You have recovered an orb. Now you must return it.
As you must return.
Alright, there's a rational explanation for what just happened. That wasn't any sort of prophetic enlightenment. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to step outside. Nope. Yeah, so I hope that pool wasn't sacred or anything. Vedic Kryn, your orb thing just messed with my mind. There was a big white flash and then I saw lots of people that I knew, but it wasn't really them, and they started speaking to me.
I would be honored to know what the prophets shared with you, if you are willing. Sometimes their visions can be very confusing, and I have some experience interpreting them.
Well, the vision seemed to suggest that the orb was not from the temple and needed to be returned elsewhere.
Elsewhere? But it is an orb of the prophets. Where else could it belong? Unless... Are you familiar with the so-called mirror universe? I know very little about it myself, but there is a book on that table over there by a Vedic Eth describing his experiences. Perhaps it can guide you.
Among the many tomes, we find one called On the Mirror Universe that recalls the exploits of Colonel Kira Nerys and Emissary Sisko in the mirror universe of the Terran Empire. The study speculates on the nature of the prophets in this alternate timeline, which do exist to the Bajoran people. However, unlike our prime reality, the Celestial Temple was never discovered, the wormhole aliens that dwell within were never contacted, so the Bajoran religion never received vindication. The author, a Vedic called Eth, goes on to lament the fact that they were not permitted access into the mirror universe to study any potential prophets there. The author wanted to deduce if they would be the same prophets as they existed beyond time and maybe space, or were in fact a mirror duplicate of our realm's prophets. The author assumed that the Federation was to blame for denying access, as Bajor is now a member world and the UFP had strictly quarantined access. The author then abandoned their seat on the Vedic Assembly before hiring their own expedition. Eth found that there had been a Terran uprising or rebellion incited by Mirror Benjamin Sisko. This places the expedition at after 2372, as we saw Terrak Nor under Terran resistance control in the DS9 episode Shattered Mirror. They did, however, find evidence of orbs in the mirror universe, but never made contact with any prophets, lacking a starship to travel to the wormhole.
Sarah's here.
So if the orb is from the mirror universe, we should probably return it there. Contacting Sarish, we bring her up to speed.
Acknowledged. Be careful. The mirror universe is known to be more treacherous than our universe, and you will be cut off from any support here.
With all that done planet-side, we return to the Dunkirk in orbit and set a course for the anomaly we encountered in the Badlands. If the Cardassian True Way can use it to pass into the mirror universe and Terran ships can enter from the other side, we should be able to do the same.
Sarish here. What is your status?
Checking up on me, Commander Sarish? I'm flattered, but we've just entered the Badlands.
Acknowledged. Keep comm lines open as long as possible. We have limited intelligence on the mirror universe, but from what we know, it appears the Terran rebellion spread from Terrak Nor, eventually forming a new empire. The Terran Empire has reoccupied Bajor. I believe this Captain Leeta is the administrator of the Bajor sector.
Interesting. It seems that the Terran rebellion simply ended up overthrowing one regime to impose another. Well, it seems that they have allowed a Bajoran, Leeta, into a position of power, so perhaps they learned a couple of lessons on how to work alongside other species, rather than the xenophobic tendencies of the old Terran Empire.
I am Gul Haneri of the Torn, Chief Tactical Advisor to Gul Kardec of the True Way. You are not welcome here. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded.
Tell me, Gul Haneri, has that line ever worked? So our way is blocked by another one of Kardec's lackeys. I guess he has operational oversight of this area in the True Way operations, and if that's the case, then he's the linchpin to this whole mirror universe debacle.
I believe Gul Kardec must have used the orb from the mirror universe to somehow create the anomaly leading back there. He then must have formed an alliance with the Terran Empire. Stay on your guard. They are probably expecting you.
Sarish seems to share our suspicions, and we prepare for conflict with Gul Haneri. We need to get to that rift and slip into the alternate universe. Let's just hope that we can move by unnoticed once we've dispatched the True Way forces on this side. The forces left to defend the portal are nowhere near as formidable as our first visit, and it doesn't take long before we dispose of them. The defenders down, we bombard the portal with tachyon radiation to stabilise it and proceed through, out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Greetings. I am Captain Leeta of the Terran Empire. What a pleasure it is to have visitors from your universe. When Gul Kardec said you might be along, I didn't really believe him. But I couldn't afford to take the chance. Surrender. Now. And I will guarantee the safety of your crew.
Should have known better than to hope they'd leave a choke point such as this unguarded. Well, surrender isn't an option, mostly because I don't believe her.
What a pity. We could have had so much fun together. And now, I have to destroy you.
Well, let's not be too hasty. What kind of fun? Oh, right, violence. Should have guessed. An eager Terran frigate breaks ranks to charge us. Bad move. The small Miranda-class ship is completely outgunned and overpowered, marking the first casualty of our intrusion. A second frigate and a Centaur class then close in to attack us, the frigate faring little better than its sister ship. The surviving vessel cruised by us, and we get a clear look at the Terran markings all over the hull, deep red decals to show its allegiance. The enemies here aren't too taxing, provided we don't just charge into the middle of them. As the next frigate falls, lancing beams slice through the void to strike us, signalling the approach of more hostiles.
Oh, what fun! I was really rather bored before you showed up.
Leeta's ship sits apart from her forces as the two latest vessels engage us. Is this all a game to her? They stood a far better chance at defeating us if they attacked all at once. What's her plan? It's like she's just testing our capabilities. Nevertheless, these two vessels together pose a significant threat, so if we can, we'll isolate them and pick them off one at a time. The science vessel has the ability to drain our shields, so in conjunction with the cruiser's firepower, death can come with very little warning. Being a science ship, however, once its advanced shielding is penetrated, it goes down with a single salvo, leaving us to engage the remaining cruiser. Still, Leeta's ship sits out the conflict, and the cruiser deploys a tractor beam holding us in place. While it assaults our shielding, we weather the hits, and instead of trying to break free, just utilise the cruiser's close proximity to unload everything we have at it.
I apologize for the state of my troops. They've grown rather complacent. I shall have to provide a demonstration.
Now the ISS Fortuna engages us. Was this all her idea of training? All those ships and crews thrown away? The Fortuna comes replete with the expected Terran loadout, quantum and photon torpedoes, phasers and the like. One thing though, the ship itself actually varies on encounters, not being a set vessel in the game's files, and this one also launches a squadron of fighters to harass our shielding. Once it becomes clear that we have the upper hand, Leeta beats a hasty retreat.
Kardec ordered me not to investigate you. I won't make the same mistake this time we meet.
And a sudden silence falls over the cerulean Badlands, and we're free to set a course for Mirror Bajor. This version of Leeta is heartless, to put it mildly, only out to have fun. If she's retreated to Kardec, I've got no doubt we'll be seeing her again shortly. We waste no time in beaming down. With our presence exposed, haste is now our only ally. Tarsi has been keeping her ears open for comm chatter on our approach and deduced that Mirror Bajor was occupied by the Terran Empire after its re-establishment, just as our Bajor is part of the Federation. Stepping outside though, we see that's where the similarities end. We're in an alternate Hathon city, one populated by dark alleyways, oppressive towers and dim neon signs. The gloom is exacerbated by the pouring rain. These sleazy signs would be out of place on our spiritual Bajor, and the populace here feels both dense yet absent. We can ask one of the locals what he's up to.
What does it look like I'm doing? Microsurgery? I get my hands dirty, and I show farmers how to grow crops. We have a botanist, but he's one of those ivory tower scientific types that wouldn't know a hoe from a rake. I wanted to be an engineer, but when the Terrans retook Bajor from the Klingon-Cardassian alliance, opportunities suddenly dried up. So I fell back on the family tradition of gardening. No matter how many times Bajor gets conquered, it always seems to be a cultural backwater that relies on manual labor. We live in harmony with our world, just as the prophets intended, whether we like it or not.
The fact that we've beamed in here in the middle of night serves to provide a contrast with the city we know. Here the Terran Empire rules and seems to have transformed Hathon City into a place of dark recreation, and the people seem to almost resent the prophets for abandoning them, mocking the same culture and religion that is present in our reality. This place is barely recognisable as Bajor. However, the city of Hathon, although far more urban in structure, is still ancient, and therefore the temple and adjoining plaza, complete with obelisk and fountain, should still be in the same location. Unfortunately, our suspicions about Leeta's destination were correct.
Gul Kardec was right. You are formidable, but pitifully predictable. Terran forces, attack the invaders! I want them alive.
An open firefight breaks out in the streets as Terran forces attempt to halt our progress, while just as before, Leeta sits apart from her forces and observes from behind a force field. Defeating her soldiers, she again makes a run for it.
Guards! Guards!
We give chase, but she seeks shelter in another alcove, establishing another barrier as more Terran soldiers ambush us. She's just leading us from one fight to the next, acting as bait perhaps? Is this her idea of thrill-seeking?
We will meet again. Soon.
Yeah, I'll try not to look forward to it too much. It doesn't matter that she got away. She's not our target. We need to return the mirror Orb of Possibilities to the temple. And it should be round about here. This is the plaza, but the obelisk's gone.
You have interfered with my plans for the last time!
Gul Kardec? He's here? Well, but unfortunately for him, his Terran allies have all left him alone. Well then, let's see if we can get him into custody. Oi, don't run away! Kardec begins to fight us using grenades and a Cardassian disruptor. The damage output here is not too bad, but he is unexpectedly tanky, weathering a lot of hits. He even manages to down Captain Hale before the rest of the crew subdue him, or so it seems.
Stop! Fighting is not permitted here.
This is not your affair.
Kardec's a bloody changeling! A mirror Vedic Kryn was sent flying, but there's no time to check on her. We'll have to do that later. Changelings are a dangerous opponent. The battle against Kardec, or whatever he's called, continues. This is why he was shrugging off our hits. Well, now he's exposed as an imposter, he makes full use of his physiology to stretch out and lunge at us, thrash about with tendrils as he tries to beat us down with force, sending us flying. Expert changelings can adopt any form perfectly, so I wonder how long he's been one. Was there ever a real Gul Kardec? As our assault continues, the changeling loses cohesion and reverts to an amorphous state, but far from being over, he's now more dangerous than ever, lashing out like a cornered animal. If we try to get some distance, he just simply lashes out and pulls us back in. The only advantage we have at this stage is that Kardec isn't as mobile as he was, and is easily susceptible to grenades and other damage over time attacks. Finally, he's taken enough punishment and attempts to meekly slink away. It's at this juncture we have the opportunity to capture him. Doing so results in a captured changeling item that we'll have to hand over to Starfleet for interrogation. In the meantime, let's attend to the Vedic.
Thank you. I feel much better. But a changeling? Here, we only have stories. In any event, what was the purpose for your visit?
Believe it or not, we've got an orb for you.
The Orb of Possibilities? But that was lost decades ago, during the first occupation of Bajor. However did you come by it? Never mind. The prophets teach us not to look at their workings too closely. Don't just stand there. Place it on the altar.
Yeah, it seems the faith of Bajor has fallen into decline somewhat here. Bajor's finest holosuites brush shoulders with the temples of the prophets. Before we return it, however, Gul Kardec had a pad on him, so let's look it over.
From Gul Kardec to Gul Palat, I have run into some complications. Namely, some agents have interfered with my plans. They have stolen the Orb of Possibilities. I assume they have returned it to the Bajorans by now. Fortunately, the anomaly remains stable. I was able to retreat to the Mirror Universe where I have taken shelter with my Terran allies. However, I believe they are waiting for my return. Therefore, I need you to meet with Dumatsu Khan at the facility in the Devos system in my stead. Coordinates are attached.
No confession of being a changeling here, so I wonder if this Gul Palat even knew. It seems that Kardec didn't expect us to come all the way to another universe to return the Orb of Possibilities. Guess he didn't bet on divine intervention. He does mention a Dumatsu Khan in the Devos system, however, asking Palat to take his place while Kardec lies low. So we have further information that Starfleet may want us to chase up on.
We are most grateful. We had thought the orb lost forever. You have restored the balance.
Your enemies lie in wait. They want to prevent your return.
But we shall restore the balance as you did.
You have returned our orb.
Now you must return.
Wait, what? Restore the balance? Hang on. Tarsi contacts us over comms saying she and the away team are back on the Dunkirk? This looks like the Bajor of our universe. Let's just go ahead and check, shall we? Stepping outside, the sunlight beams down on a very familiar and much warmer Bajor. It does indeed look like the prophets returned us to our own dimension after we restored their orb. They did warn us before they transported us out that enemies were lying in wait, probably Leeta lurking at the anomaly we used to enter the Mirror Universe, waiting to ambush us again. The prophets, or Mirror prophets maybe, let us bypass all of that and helped address some sort of universal balance.
Greetings. I did not see you enter the temple.
I think I was transported here by the prophets.
Indeed. I know little of the Mirror prophets, but if they are like ours, then this is a great honor. Rarely do the prophets interfere so directly. I take it your mission was a success?
Yes, we returned the Mirror Universe orb.
Then you have the gratitude of 2 Bajors. May the prophets continue to smile upon you.
After this escapade, we should probably inform Commander Saris that we're back on home turf.
So, Gul Kardec was a changeling. This does not bode well. An alliance between the True Way and the Alpha Dominion could prove disastrous for the Alpha and Beta quadrants. However, the orb has been returned to the Mirror Universe, and you have returned to ours. Nevertheless, we must stop this alliance before they can do any further damage. We shall analyze the pad you retrieved to see if we find this Ketracel White factory.
Sarish seems to be in the know about a Ketracel facility. Well, I guess looking into the Devos system yielded that information, or we just missed it? This, combined with the presence of the Changeling, hints at the involvement of a Dominion threat, but that's a story we'll have to explore later. In the meantime, let's ponder what we've uncovered. This is a fun storyline full of nostalgia, but this plot does kind of summarise some issues with the Cardassian struggle arc. It's very convoluted. Basically, we just witnessed a xenophobic Cardassian extremist group trying to undermine its government and the Federation through conflicts with Bajor, being led in secret by a Dominion spy while attempting to establish ties with the Mirror Universe version of the wife of the Grand Nagus. Right. Well, to be fair, this is setting up some plot threads that get paid off much later down the line, with the Dominion involvement in particular, but it does tend to front-load its story by quite a bit. Still though, the Mirror Bajor was a much darker place but fun to visit, one where the emissary never existed, the prophets are even more elusive, and the Terran Empire has muscled in once again. The Terran Rebellion, established in 2372, seems to have accomplished its goal of returning to power, but rather than institute a new democracy akin to the one Mirror Universe Spock created in his time, they returned to the ways of subjugation and conquest. Still, even a mirror in the shadows can still reflect the light, and I guess we should just be grateful that the new Terran Empire is an equal opportunities dictator that allows for non-humans to rise to prestigious stations such as the Bajoran Sector Overseer. Or maybe I'm just looking for redemption in a universe where that's very unlikely. Whatever its troubles, Bajor, the one we're on now, at least has a far brighter future, and even the Cardassian people, on the whole, wish for peace. It's just the select few who are causing trouble, and we'll have to deal with them in the continuing and evolving narrative of Star Trek Online. So, until next time, I've been Rick, and thanks for watching. I'll see you again for next part. Goodbye.